welcome to the Talking Michigan Transportation Podcast. I'm Jeff Cranston. This is a bit of an emergency episode to update people on what's going on with the latest round of heavy rains and flooding that is washing away some roads in northern Michigan. This is the second time in just a few months that this has happened. And the much beloved M119, also known as the Tunnel of Trees in Emmett County, is again one of the harshest recipients of this weather. I spoke briefly with Senator John Damoose, who represents that area. He lives in Harbor Springs, and he surveyed the area on Tuesday, June 30th, the day after those rains did the damage. And I also spoke with Bill Wahl, who is the acting North Region engineer for MDOT, and he was also out there on Tuesday surveying the damage up and down. And he spoke about what's going to be involved, both short-term and long-term, in the repairs, in addition to the work that was already going on to repair the damage from those floods back in April. And he also talked about some of the other roads in that area, M88 and M66, that also had some washouts because of the flooding. I hope you find this informative, and I think that this is going to be an ongoing issue with more volatile weather and some of these extreme weather events that are going to be affecting infrastructure. And I don't know that there's any way that we're going to have the funding necessary in Michigan at the national level and all the other states that are dealing with building for resiliency and what's going to be needed if this becomes the new normal. All right, once again, I'm with State Senator John Damoose, who is of Harbor Springs and represents several counties in the northern Lower Peninsula and some of those in the eastern Upper Peninsula. He has been on the podcast before, very good communicator. I always enjoy talking with him, although not under these circumstances. This is the second time some roads in his district have been racked by some major rain events causing flooding and washouts, especially on M119, also known as the Tunnel of Trees, to people not just in the rest of Michigan, but other states who travel there. It's a frequent tourist destination, and this is really sad. He got a chance to go out there today and look around, so I just kind of wanted to get his take on it. In addition to already talking to some of the engineers there about the specifics. So, Senator, thank you as always for taking time for this. Could you just tell me a little bit of what you saw?
Yeah, Jeff, and thanks for having me on. I love that you do these podcasts, and I love you guys have been great to work with. In fact, so I went up to M119, which is a statewide treasure. Everybody loves the Tunnel of Trees. It's internationally renowned, and in fact, when I pulled on to 119 today, I noticed the beautiful job that you guys did with the chip seal. The road looks great. It's all ready for summer. Other than when we had that flooding a few weeks ago, we had that whole area just collapsed, and I know that's going to be a long time to fix. And then what I saw today was shocking. I don't know why this stuff is happening now, and I don't know if it relates to prior damage from the prior flooding or anything like that, but we went to several areas. We were down on Lampkin Road beneath 119. I was with State Representative Parker Fairburn, who also represents this district, and the cliffs are just sort of, it's just like what you see in California, these mudslides. And then we went over to an area called Devil's Elbow, which is really well known. It's a beautiful part of the road, and that part's closed off. The road is still there, but it looks like it's hanging on by a thread. It's a sheer cliff now from all the washout. And so I'm assuming that's why you guys have it closed, because it doesn't look safe to me.
No, I think, in fact, last night, when the water was still gushing there, I saw some images, which I'll post with the podcast, and it looked like it might not survive into today. So I think it's very precarious from what I'm seeing and hearing.
It is, and it's such a unique road. I'm sure it is, in one sense, a crown jewel for you all, and I'm sure, on the other sense, it's a total headache, because the way it's built is just, what makes it great also probably makes it very difficult to maintain. It's not an overly wide road. It's very curvy, positioned up sort of on the cliffs there, and But I don't remember ever having these problems before. And I don't know if it's just the extreme weather we had this year or over the past few years or what's causing this, but everybody's very, very concerned, and especially the residents and the businesses along the way. I went to the Goodhart store today, and I've known them since I was a kid up there, and they're just beside themselves because, with all the damage to the roads which leads towards detours, and they're really concerned about people stopping at their business or not, and whether they're going to be able to make it. And they've been around for over 50 years, so that'd be a real shame if those things start to close up.
Yeah, there's going to the cause. There's a lot of discussion at the U.S. DOT level and among other states about building for resiliency, understanding that these volatile weather events are happening with more frequency, and you're getting, just bigger deluges. It's not so much that we have rain events. Obviously, we always have rain events, especially in the summer. We get into these humid periods as we get into July and August, but the ones we do have are more extreme and more severe. And when you build alongside the Great Lakes and different kinds of soils, obviously, nothing is meant to withstand that much rain at once. So I know you've probably talked to your colleagues about this, and maybe you've talked to U.S. Representative Jack Bergman. But long term, we're going to have to figure out some funding that can make these roads sustainable.
Absolutely, we are. And we need to be doing that. I know everybody's very budget conscious, as we should be. This is why we don't want to waste money where we don't have to, because we have actual real world needs, like our roads and like preparing for emergencies. And, we've been hit a couple of years in a row. Last year in the spring up north, we got this ice storm, which just devastated our area. It's still a mess in the woods and with the trees. And this is going to be damage that lasts for a long, long time. And then in March of this year, we saw this unbelievable snow event, and we all panicked because we thought there was a chance this was going to become an ice storm number 2. And when we found out it wasn't, we all had fun with this. We're like, this is great. Okay, we dodged a bullet here. At my own house, I had over 30 inches of snow, not drifts, just snow, and less than 48 hours. It was crazy. But we didn't really dodge a bullet. We misread that, because that's what ended up causing this incredible flooding all winter, or the spring, which almost destroyed a number of dams up here. And that's where that one part of M119 collapsed. And I think what we're seeing now is still the product of some of that. I'm not an structural engineer or road engineer or anything like that, but I am real concerned, and I know you guys are too, that you're going to be looking deeply into this, into the viability of that road right now and the safety of that road. What's eroded underneath? I guess we don't know, do we?
No, that's what they're looking at. There are a lot of people out there, both bridge engineers and structural engineers, taking a look at this and trying to figure out short term and long term what's going to need to happen. And it's interesting that this came down just a week after the department issued a news release saying that the plan was to start work on one of the sections that were destroyed in that previous flooding that you were talking about. And that was supposed to include work where it's closed between West Stutzmanville Road and Turpinning Road, and try to provide access to homes and businesses that are maintained there. But now that's obviously going to be slowed down or disrupted because of this. And now we've got several other sections. And that washout near Division Road south of Cross Village during that same April flooding event, that remains closed. I'm sure you're very familiar with it. And on top of that, we've got M66 near East Jordan closed with a culvert failure, and M88 east of Eastport in Antrim County, and M88 near Farrow Road in Antrim County. Unfortunately for you, those are all in your district.
They are. In fact, it's nice because in the Senate we have a few, a little bit extra staff. So we've been sort of fanning out through my staff and I throughout the day to M88 and 66, and we've been up there, taking pictures and talking to people up there. I took 119 because it's just a few miles from our house, but there's a lot of damage up here, and there's a lot of damage still to be repaired from this year's earlier storms. But one thing I have a concern on, and you guys do a great job at MDOT with communications, but we're going to have to be real clear if there is a problem this weekend. This is the biggest weekend up north ever. I mean, the 4th of July is unbelievable. The number of people who come from out of state and from downstate, and we want them to come. I mean, we're still open, but if there are areas that aren't safe, we need to be able to tell people stay away from this area here because there's going to be a ton of out of town visitors for this weekend for sure.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about how to get very creative. Part of the reason that I wanted to talk to you was to help with getting the word out to media downstate so that people are aware before they get up there of what they're facing. Because so far, I mean, there's a lot of coverage, obviously, in the northern Michigan media, but I don't think that there's a great deal of awareness of this, down here south of the knuckles, as they say.
Yeah, it's funny. We had the same problem with the ice storm where people downstate really didn't get a grasp of it. You know what? I think a lot of it has to do with the type of disasters we're having up here. They don't look like when a hurricane or a tornado hits. I mean, there aren't just leveled, flattened buildings. Even with the ice storm, there was a lot of damage, but it wasn't something that just readily comes across on the TV screen. Like when you see this giant flooding in Texas where it washes away an entire camp and kills all these people. It doesn't look like that. So I think it's harder to relate to it. But in fact, I had that frustration today when I was peering over the edge of this incredible washout area. I mean, it looked like a part of the Grand Canyon, but every picture I was taking didn't quite capture it. I was like, this doesn't look anything near as bad as what I'm seeing with my own eyes. And so I think in that, with that knowledge there, I think it's kind of hard to tell the story downstate. People just sort of miss it a little bit, but it's a big deal. I mean, I do want people to understand it's not, you'll still be able to get around, do all the same things you can do on the 4th of July. It's just on certain roads, we may have some detours and a little bit of delays here and there, but it'll be a great weekend. It's open up here. But we need everybody to know what's going on because, frankly, we need help. And we never ended up securing state-level funding for the ice storm relief. We got a lot of federal funding, but we're still working on that, and we're going to need some funding to help rebuild these roads that everybody around the state enjoys.
Well, I mean, talk about those. I know you're a very patient listener, but talk about how those conversations go with those business owners and constituents there who you've known for a long time, and they kind of look to you like help. And what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've really learned throughout my 5 years now in the legislature is we just don't have the power that a lot of people think we do. We don't have, I mean, it's an important job. We can accomplish things, but it's much slower than anybody thinks. And I'm just one of 148 people down there in the legislature making the case to help our area amidst a group of people who also have issues within their own areas there. So it's a slower process, and that's usually what I have to explain. I find it really frustrating because, frankly, I wish I had a magic wand. There is a person who I was meeting with the owner of the Good Heart store this morning, the Good Heart General Store, which is just a classic place. It's been around for over 50 years, and she was telling me about someone they know who's basically homebound, and there's so much debris in her house as of last night, and they don't know what to do with it and how to there aren't even resources to help clean it up. The woman is beside herself, and it just breaks my heart. I wish we could just go make a wave of magic wand and make it better, but that's not how the legislature works or the budgeting process or anything like that. So a lot of our conversations that I have are, yes, we want to help. Yes, we're going to do everything we can to help, but a lot of it is sort of setting their expectations right, that this is a longer, slower process than anything you might imagine, and I'd rather under-promise and then over-deliver than the other way around.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, that you want to say, this is what we need to do, and that, it's about education. It's about educating them on the process and how it works and how appropriations work and what the priorities are and what's going on with the rest of the state. I mean, it's human nature. We can all be a little insular and a little inside our own bubble. And we've got a whole state surrounded by water. We've got these kinds of issues, but really nothing these last few years is as extreme as what you're dealing with, especially in M119.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense. When I stood at that Devil's Elbow today, I mean, it was just the most unbelievable scene because the road is beautiful because you guys just resurfaced it. And all that part, even the white lines are still intact. But right at the edge of the white line, it's like broken off into a cliff. And it's just the strangest thing to see. This is a total disaster, but it's happening in slow motion. I mean, we don't know whether that's going to survive or not. I don't know how it does. And I don't mean to be a doomsayer here, but it's just, you guys have such an incredible job. It's amazing. It sort of never ends with the amount of work you have. And I sympathize with it and with the job that you do. You do a great job, and hopefully we'll be here to help you with a good budget here coming up, and especially as we go into the future, begin to put more of these monies aside for special projects, but also for disasters as they occur.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that you have good things to say about the MDOT engineers and maintenance crews, both at the direct force level, those actually working for MDOT, and the counties that do a lot of the work on those roads in the North region where you live. And it's good to hear because they are a very committed and dedicated bunch. So, Senator, thank you for taking a little bit of time to talk about this and what you've seen out there. We'll be checking in again, I think, as things go forward and we figure out what the longer term plan is going to be.
Yeah, just keep me posted, and thanks for having all your crew out there today looking at this, and we're here to help. Let me know how I can be helpful in this whole process, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
All right, thank you. We'll talk again soon.
Please stay tuned. We'll be back with more Talking Michigan Transportation right after this.
The Michigan Department of Transportation reminds you that when a vehicle collides with another vehicle, person, or other object, it is a crash, not an accident. By reducing human error, we can prevent crashes and rebuild Michigan roads safely.
Hello again. As promised, I'm with Bill Wahl, who, as of when I'm recording today on June 30th, is the acting region engineer for MDOT's North region. He is otherwise the associate region engineer and has been for some time. He'll be handing off the acting title to someone else tomorrow. And I should mention that this is all because Scott Thayer, the longtime North region engineer, retired a couple weeks ago. Certainly, we wish him the best. He's always been a very thoughtful and compassionate leader. And I know that he's probably feeling a little bittersweet about leaving and having this issue now to deal with. But Bill, let's start by saying for the second time in just a couple months, you're surveying roads that are literally washing away because of heavy deluges and rainfall.
Yeah, we had two areas that just got torrential rainfall yesterday along the M88 corridor from US 31 in Eastport over towards Central Lake, and then also up on M119 in the Tunnel Tree section north of Harbor Springs. Both of them, we're still waiting for final numbers from the Weather Service. But looking at the radar and like how much they're projecting on the radar if it fell, you're looking at 5 to 7+ inches of rain in some of these areas in an hour to 2 hours, that's just a lot of water that came down in a really short period of time. And we've got a lot of sections of road that washed out and shoulders that have washed away. It's definitely some interesting challenges ahead on some of these sections of road, especially coming right before the 4th of July holiday.
Let's talk about the chronology here. I think it got on my radar when you sent some messages to our COO, Greg Brunner, Monday morning, June 29th. When did the storms hit, and when did you realize how bad this was going to be?
So the storms hit yesterday during the middle of the day. There was two different sections of storm. There was one that went through the M88 corridor, and that was in late morning, maybe 10 o'clock to noonish. I happened to be sitting in a different meeting and was watching on the radar the storm system because it was coming directly towards Gaylord where I worked, but was just watching this red blob on the radar that just sat over that corridor for a really long period of time. So not too long after that, we started to gain reports and pictures from staff and maintenance workers from the County Road Commission, as well as our staff who were starting to find these issues where roads were completely submerged in water and large chunks of them had gotten washed away. So as I was out on those sections looking at those in the afternoon, We had some other staff that were up on M119 working on issues from the spring's flooding. Some areas we're trying to repair, and had asked them. We saw another chunk of rain was getting ready to go through there, so they ended up going through late afternoon, around 3 to 4 o'clock-ish, after a different cell went through that area and discovered another 5 locations yesterday. Over the course of the night, a couple more have shown up, so another 7 locations with pretty significant damage along the M119 corridor yesterday afternoon. So this has all occurred within the period of about 12 hours from the start to the finish that just devastated some different sections of roadway.
So I think that timing explains some confusion on my part. I think I got the first message about this around 9 in the morning. No, actually it was later than that, yesterday. So on Monday, the 29th. But I thought, based on that rain must have been going on, if not overnight, at least it started in the wee hours of the morning. And the fact that all happened that fast, I guess that really that's a testament to how much rain came all at once.
Yeah, that was it. The crazy part about it is normally, because earlier in the day, I got up, I checked the weather in the morning, and it didn't really show any rain. And then as the morning went on, it started to show that we're going to get storms. And typically, when you see these kind of pop-up thunderstorms, they move really quickly. They may be intense, but they kind of cut across the area very fast. And these ones just went really slow with really heavy rain. And that's what caused the issue. 5 to 7 inches of rain in 24 hours would be a substantial storm. 5 to 7 inches of rain in an hour to 2 hours is just an incredible amount of water that all is trying to get through the system in an instant, and ended up backing up and causing flooding. There are spots where the water appeared to be 10 feet higher than what it typically would be, and it backed up behind on ditch lines and in shoulders and gone over the road in spots where we have culverts, but that culvert's down there 10 feet below the road surface, and yet the water managed to make it over the road. There were spots we were in one, and I was on a curve area, and at the top of the curve, one of my coworkers was there, and he was parked on top of a dead fish that had ended up on the road during the flooding. And there was just pure flash flooding.
Wow. Yeah. So you've been in the region for quite some time, and the North region is huge geographically. It touches Lake Michigan, it touches Lake Huron, and has shoreline on the straits. So a lot of waterfront. Do you remember a period like this since in your time there where you had this much damage from flooding in just a couple of months?
That the sheer number of events we've had is something that I definitely can't remember. Over the years, we've had individual events down by the Manistee area. Probably 12, 13 years ago, there was a really bad set of events there that had issues, and we had windstorm issues more like 8 or 9 years ago over the Leelanau Peninsula. But those were all kind of standalone issues. And the fact that this year we had ice storm and blizzard and then flooding and now flash floods, it's just, I've never dealt with this volume of emergency situations happening one after another.
Well, I happen to remember because I was there when those straight line winds hit near Glen Arbor in Leelanau County. That was actually 2015, but that didn't even do the damage to the infrastructure that these rains and flooding have done.
No, that's the difference here is and even last year's ice storm really didn't damage the infrastructure. There was an insane amount of debris we had to deal with, but the infrastructure itself wasn't damaged. So to have this many events happening so quickly where we've had substantial damage to the infrastructure is not something I have ever myself experienced. I've been in this role since 2011, and it was just a handful of times we have a little washout here or there, but not the level of scenarios we're seeing right now.
So give your prognosis, I guess, segment by segment. And I know right now there are some spots that you just don't even know, short term or long term, what's going to happen. But I guess what do you know about the issues on M88, M66, and M119?
Yeah, so M88, those issues, while they're severe, are manageable. And in general, we can kind of it's relatively easy to see what the repair type is. Hopefully, a lot of those will be able to go in, remove the damaged material, rebuild the slopes that have washed away, and restore the road. There's a couple of locations where I actually had projects scheduled to work on some culverts anyways, so we'll be able to combine it with that work that we're already planning to do. M66, we're still in an evaluation mode of what's going to happen there. That one was, of all the sections off of 119, was probably the most severe damage. And we're still trying to figure out exactly what all has been damaged. A good chunk of the road got washed away. We know there's damage under the road surface that we can't even see yet based on where the water was and how it washed things away. And so that one's still a lot more of a question mark of how substantial the repair will be. But even at that, worst case scenarios, we'll go in and open it up, take the existing culvert out and put a brand new culvert in, which, while it's not inexpensive and it's not quick or easy, it's well within the wheelhouse of what we do. M119 is probably where the biggest question marks are. I just got off of reviewing that section with a number of other staff members from the North region, and there's some areas there where the level of damage and the washouts are just beyond what any of us have ever seen, or typically you would see in northern Michigan. M119, for those who are used to have been driven on it, it's a huge set of bluffs. And there's spots where the road's up 70, 80, 100 feet over the lower areas, and there's spots where there's massive washouts that have just gone all the way down, hundreds of feet long. That some of those spots we're all kind of looking and saying, we're not even sure yet what the solution is going to be for those, other than it's going to be challenging, it's going to be expensive, and it's not going to be fast. A number of the other locations there in 119 appear to be a lot more manageable. There's pretty good sized washouts, but it appears that from what we see at this point and know at this point, that we could get in, remove the damaged area, start at the bottom and work our way up, and at least they're small enough that it's manageable to fix them. There's a couple spots though where it's definitely going to take some unique engineering and unique repair techniques to fix those sections.
So we'll include some photos with the show notes, but kind of set the scene, explain, in terms of soil types and like you mentioned, these are on bluffs and there's just not a lot of buffer room on either side of the road. Just what makes it so challenging there?
Yeah, so there's a handful of different things there along that M119 corridor, and it's a combination of, the bluffs are a combination of sand and clay. So there's a lot of areas now where once water started to go through it and it started to deteriorate and degrade it, it just washes it out. And there was so much water rushing through yesterday that in a lot of spots, the water was just going over the road, across the road, down the hills, and just taking everything with it. So now that it's all been exposed, if there's another heavy rainstorm, it's likely to take more of the material away. It's also challenging along that tunnel and tree section in that the road is so narrow and the property we have is so narrow. I mean, M119 itself in most spots is somewhere between 18 and 20 feet between the white lines, which is very, very narrow to begin with. A lot of areas that there's not a big buffer between the edge of the road and where it drops off down the bluff and down the cliffs. So as it starts to degrade, it can very quickly get up close to the edge of the road and potentially take the road out with it if there's a future storm. So we're being very cautious right now and trying to keep traffic off of any of the areas where there's concern points and keep people away from those areas, because especially with the heat wave we're in right now, we could have additional pop-up storms pretty much at any point. And we want to make sure that we don't have if there is any additional deterioration, that there aren't people or vehicles in that area when it occurs.
So I can imagine the anxiety you and your colleagues probably felt yesterday, because it was only a week ago, right, that work began to repair the section between West Stutzmanville and Turpinning roads on M119?
Yes. So we were just starting on that. That section is, the contractor is there starting to do some of the work on that section. And we have other sections throughout the region that were damaged during the spring flooding that were in areas that were getting inundated with the rain yesterday. And worrying of what more damage is going to occur to those. Thankfully, that section that we have the contract in place for already, and some of the other segments around northern Michigan didn't appear to take any additional damage yesterday, so that was a really good thing. But we have just lots of spots out there now that have suffered damage, not only on our system, but on the local county roads as well, that if there's another major storm event that goes through, it could definitely make them much worse really quickly, just because so much of the soil is already exposed and all the trees and grass is all wiped out.
I should also mention that while everybody, it seems, is familiar with M119 because of the tunnel of trees, that M88 is a pretty important tourist highway also in Antrim County and that area that a lot of people travel to the lakes that are west of Mansalona. Sounds like, based on the rundown you gave us earlier, you feel a little better about the ability to repair those spots.
Yeah, I definitely feel a little better about the ability to repair them. It's still not going to be super fast. We were able to work with our partners at the Antrim County Road Commission and get a detour route established for M88. Since we already had a project designed for some of those culverts, we knew where we would send traffic. So we're expediting getting that detour put in place to try to help traffic get around that M88 section. There's a lot of it where the local traffic can still move pretty easily. But there's some sections that it's totally shut down and will be for quite a while at this point. It's still too early even to really give estimates on when some of these segments are going to be able to be fixed.
Well, I appreciate the rundown. I know you and Dave McCaw, who becomes acting regioneer as of tomorrow, July 1st, the day this will actually post and most people will be hearing it. You guys are going to have your hands full now for the next several days, and we'll be touching base again on it. Thanks for taking time to do this. I know how busy you are, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem. I'm glad I could help out, and we just always encourage if people are out in these areas, if there's a barricade across the road, please respect it. We have so many people that think the barricades are for everyone else and go and move them. And just encourage everyone, if the road is shut down, please listen, and there's a reason we have those shut down. Don't try to get in there and see what's happening.
Yeah, in a normal construction site, people might think if I go around the barricades, I might encounter some gravel where there's supposed to be pavement because it's in between work. But in this case, you could be driving into a collapsed road. So.
Yes. Yeah. So that's always a challenge we have with these issues of trying to keep people out of them. It's there for everyone's safety. We just want to keep all the motorists who are out there safe.
Yeah, that's a really good caution. I appreciate it, Bill. Take care.
Thank you. Have a great day.
I'd like to thank you once more for tuning in to Talking Michigan Transportation. You can find show notes and more on Apple Podcasts or Buzzsprout. I also want to acknowledge the talented people who help make this a reality each week, starting with Randy Debler, who skillfully edits the audio, Jesse Ball, who proofs the content, and Jackie Salinas, who posts the podcast to various platforms and transcribes the audio to make it accessible to all.